Hello guys, Prairie here. Welcome to today's presentation. So in today's presentation, we are literally going to try to do the impossible, and that is to find a definition or to provide a definition of what exactly data is. And this is key, this is crucial. If you have been paying attention to the world today, you have heard of data of one form or another. All right, people are either talking about it, people are obsessing about it, people are fighting about it, people are suing each other about it, and some people are just busy trying to make money out of data. So, if you look at it from the left to the right, from top to bottom, people care about data, and everyone is talking about data in one way or another. So it's crucial that the data is a very vital component to talk about. And one of the things that even interests me or that motivates a video like this is the quotes, right? If I go on Google and you search for data quotes, you will find some really exciting, some very interesting quotes, right? One of my favorite, right, is data is a new oil, right? And so that will get anyone thinking, right? Is this the oil rush? How should I get in, all right? And you hear of terms like data analytics, data science, big data. Everyone is talking about data, but what exactly is data? All right. We know of big data, but what is data? All right. We know of data science, but what is the data in data science? Data warehousing. What is the data in data warehousing? So that is what we're gonna try and attempt to do into this video. And instead of just going and giving you a dictionary definition of what it is, I want us to build conceptually at what data is, because I think that foundation is gonna be very important for how we think about data. It's very, very key. The future would belong to those who understand data, can use data, control data, and have power over data. That's really what the future would be about. So this is very important that we understand this, both from a computing perspective and just from a general perspective. So that said, enough about my enthusiasm for data. I'm sure you can tell. Let's look at, what the real world would be like as we live our daily lives, right? We might stand here and say, all right, we have an individual here. This is Susan, all right? Susan goes over to her bank, all right? And she does a couple of transactions, all right? She deposits $10, all right, into the bank. So that's Susan's. Then she goes over to the store and she buys a couple of items. All right, she buys, say, some shoes for $100. These are some expensive shoes. She buys maybe a PC, a computer for $300. All right. And so she buys all of that, and she's just going about her day, and she's doing stuff. She might, after that, go to the movies, all right? And Susan might maybe watch Star Trek, all right? And she paid $8 for that, all right? And she maybe bought popcorn, and that was for $6. We know those popcorns and movies are not cheap. And then after that, she might maybe come back here, go to social media, Facebook, all right? And on Facebook, she would reach out to a friend. So Facebook, that's what you see down here. So on Facebook, she maybe messages Tom, all right? And then send some videos to Mary, and then text. Well, messaging is text. So that Susan texts Harry, as an example. All right. So from the perspective of Susan, she's going about her day, all right, and she's doing her stuff. This is the way we interact with the world around us. She could have gone to the pharmacy and done stuff. She could have gone to school and done stuff. She could have gone to work and done stuff. Gone to the church, all right, and just interacting with the world. But the reality is, as we interact with the world, what we're doing in the real world is interaction. But behind the scenes, each and every one of those interactions, if it's captured, if we can capture that interaction and store it, then we have data. All right. If we can capture the interactions we have with the world and we store that, then we have data. All right. So the reason why I'm coming at it from this perspective is to really give us an idea of what data is. People sometimes have certain esoteric kind of imaginations about what data is, but data at the fundamental level, if you think about it, is just a representation of the real world in the digital form. All right. It's just a representation of the real world in the digital form. So anything you do in the real world, if we can capture that and store it somewhere, that piece that we capture and store is data. Now, we can get into the format and the structure of how we store data and have some discussions around that, but data is data. All right. Today, we store data in computers, right? Because we live in the computer age as ones and zeros. All right. That's how we store data. So we tend to think of data in this way: ones and zeros, bits and bytes. All right. Because the computer looks at just ones and zeros, that's how the computer interacts, stores information. But if we weren't using computers, if I just had a ledger or a piece of paper, and as Mary came to the bank, and this is the way it was before computers even came into being. All right, Mary goes into the bank and she does her transactions. The bank will literally take out a piece of paper and write down the transaction, the ledger. All right, the bank would literally have a ledger, which is a piece of paper, and they will write down the transaction and say Susan or Mary, deposited this amount, and that piece of paper is what they kept, and that piece of paper has data. All right, so data doesn't have to be in a computer for it to be data. So the notion of data just being something in the computer is false. So data is anything that captures a certain information from the real world. All right. And what is happening is that we are getting better and better and better at capturing data because the computer world, the computer systems we have is allowing us to capture even more and more data. All right. And this will take us into the whole idea of big data and all of that. So before we had computers in this age right here to capture data and store them as ones and zeros, all right, we literally had to capture data by writing things in the ledger, all right, by writing them in the ledger here. So if you went to the bank, you would, they would write in the ledger and somebody would have to write that down, and it took time. If you went on social media here and you were doing some things and sending you couldn't even send pictures, right? Somebody would have to do a portrait. It's always amazing when I look at some of those old portraits from the Renaissance period, right? That portrait has data. It captured data about some person, about some landscape. It's still data. Albeit it took more time to draw a portrait, right, of somebody. But today you don't have to draw a portrait. You don't have to spend months and months of drawing a portrait. You can just simply take a picture. Boom, you capture the same image or the same representation of the world, and you have data more quickly. All right. So we're still talking about data, but the way we capture and store data has just simply become more efficient and more fast-paced. So we went from just writing stuff down in ledgers to being able to capture pictures, right? To being able to record videos. So now, you walk everywhere, you have video cameras, that's all capturing data. And so the ability for us to capture data has increased and is increasing exponentially. But what hasn't changed is data. Data is just a representation of the world. And if you think about it, we are doing quite a bit. We've gotten to the point where we capture quite a bit of our surroundings. All right. I think 100 years ago or 200 or even 1,000 years ago, humans didn't have the ability to capture what we can today. All right. They didn't have the cell phones. They didn't have the cameras. At some point, they did not even have ink to draw. Right. or even if they did, it was so expensive that people would not draw. So all they did was just talk to each other from oral perspective. But because now we have a paper and we can write things down, we capture data that way. Then we elevate that into being able to capture things with pictures. Now we can capture more data. We elevate that into capturing things with videos, and now we have even more data. And it doesn't just have to be cameras or video, or cameras for pictures or cameras or videos. Sensors, right? Let me write that down. There are a lot of sensors around us that are capturing data about the temperature around us, all right? Humidity around us. That's all data, all right? If you're traveling, you might want to know your altitude. That's all data that's been captured. So we have a lot of sensors around us today that are facilitating us to capture more and more data quicker, faster, more efficiently, with even more fine grain. If you think of pictures, when pictures started, or videos, let me talk about videos. All right, videos were black and white. Right, we had black and white videos, then we had colored videos, all right, then we have HD videos, all right, and basically this is just increasing the granularity and the precision in which we can capture that data. All right, now you're hearing about 4K and there's 8K, and basically that is just telling us that we can capture even more data with more precision, making it a little bit more realistic. And when people say we capture data that is realistic, is because it just represents the world in a more real way. But you cannot have data without the existence of the world, right? So data is basically a reflection of the world. And I believe if we get to the point where we can capture all data about the world we live in, now we're going to be getting into the territory of simulation, all right? And at some point we might be so good at simulating the real world that and I wouldn't even get into this in this particular video, because that's a whole different concept in itself, that if we're so good at capturing the real world, that at some point we might pass what we capture and confuse that with the real world. You know if we become so good at simulating the real world because we have enough data, we might get to that point. Some people will call it singularity, right? The point of singularity where, machines become smarter than us, and we might, singularity is a little bit of a different concept. I take that back. But it's something that goes into that debate of simulation and what is real and what is not, and but the whole idea is, if you have enough data captured about our real world, you can interchange the world with that data, and it should be theoretically possible to do that. Now we don't have a means of doing it, but you can see how theoretically it's possible to do that. So just to summarize, data is just a reflection, it's just a capture of our world. Now, data did not come because of computers. People always sometimes fall for that and think that, when you think about data, you must be talking about computers. No, before computers came into being, there was data. Maybe people did not call it data, but there was information going around, and they stored that in books, in pictures, in pictographs and things like that. It was still data. Now we have the best way or the most efficient way of storing data today is in computers, but that's not the only way of storing data. So next time someone is, you hear about, the data boom, data is the new oil and all of that things, hopefully this will give you an idea of what data is. It's basically information that has been captured and stored. Now, what you do with that data is a whole different topic in itself, all right? There are companies that if they know that you buy, you have so and so amount of money in your bank account because you deposit that, and you talk to Tom, and Tom likes to go to the movies, they might start marketing to you to go to the movies as well, all right? And those are companies that are using data to achieve their goals. We might argue that, is that ethical, is that good, and such. That, again, that's a whole different debate. But believe it, there are companies that are doing that, and they're hiring people with PhDs, and there are whole fields of studies here: data science, machine learning, big data, and all of that, and AI are all fields that are coming online to take advantage of this data and to achieve business objectives for companies, right? To sell better, to help customers keep their customers, to help companies keep their customers happy, to reduce costs, to increase revenue. That's basically it. It's saying how can we take advantage of the data assets we have to realize our objectives. And when people say data is a new oil, it's people who see the potential in using data for achieving a business objectives. We can go into the whole debate of the ethics and the governance and the security about it, but this particular video is to talk about data. What is data? Now we know what data is. Anything in the real world, if you can capture that, is data. For example, if I'm spending time making a video, if I can write that somewhere or capture it somewhere, that is data. This video itself you're watching is data. All right. And I've made some videos about metadata, which you can also check on my channel. We can have different kinds of data, and I'll mention this as well, because I think it's very important to know, right? You can have descriptive data. All right. A lot of times when we talk about data, we're talking about something that describes the real world. That's why I keep saying data is a representation of the world. That's the way it should be. But what we're seeing also is a whole new field of, it's called synthetic data. All right, this is kind of new, emerging, like fresh off the press kind of thing that companies are talking about, and they're using this for their advantage, because what companies are realizing is that, all right, we know data is a reflection of the real world. All right, so if I want to have data, I just have to go out and capture that data. All right, and put sensors, all right, and do interviews, do surveys, put cameras, whatever it is, to capture that data. But it takes time and it costs money for people to do that, for companies to do that and put other investment. But what if we can do synthetic data? What if we can just create data from nothing, right, and make our own? Sometimes you can call this fake data, but it's not really fake. Fake means that it's fake. There is something bad about it. But synthetic data is just artificial data that's not real, right? We've kind of made this up, and it does have its place. So in the world of self-driving and the companies that are investing in that, one of the things that the big challenges, and here I'm talking about Tesla, right? Companies like Tesla, one of the things that is a huge challenge for them, and not just Tesla, but for all companies that are doing self-driving cars, is they need to train their cars on how to drive. And the way you do that is they look at data, all right? They say, all right, how do humans drive? And they try to take that and to train their cars with AI and artificial intelligence. And the way they get that data is basically put a bunch of cameras, right, on the cars to capture that information. But for companies that don't have the ability of Tesla to put cameras on thousands and thousands or millions of cars on the road, there is this field that's emerging, as I mentioned, of synthetic data. Is, can we simulate this, or can we make that data up, right, without having to go put cameras somewhere, to use it specifically for the goal of training our models? So it's still data, but that will break the first piece of what I kept saying, that data is a representation of the world. That might break that definition, because it's data, it has use, but it doesn't describe anything in the world because somebody made it. So this is a slight twist we seem to be seeing now. You might come across the term synthetic data. Is becoming more and more, I think it will be more and more relevant into the future. There are scenarios that this whole concept is coming into play. But this is what data is. People have said data is the oil. There's this whole idea of data literacy, because everything we do, we generate some data. Whether we know it or whether we are conscious about it or not, we're generating data. All right. Whether we capture it or not, we are generating data. Now, There are people that are capturing that data, some without permission, some without. So if you go on Facebook and you're posting stuff and you're interacting with your friends, you're generating data, and Facebook is capturing that data. And now they can use that to market to you better. And so what people are looking at this and saying, you know, if I don't want Facebook to use my data to market to me, I might want to get my data out of Facebook or get it back from Facebook, or to stop Facebook from using my data to market to me. And that's where you now see things like regulations coming into play with GDPR, CCPA, and some governance, privacy kind of laws to limit how much companies can collect, what kind of data they can collect about us, how they use that data, and what rights do we have about data. All right. If I'm just walking down the road on a sunny day, and there's someone taking a video of me, they are capturing data about me. Now, do I have a right to tell them not to take data about me? And if they do take the data about me, even though I wasn't aware, who owns that? Is it because it's me, right? I'm the one that is doing the walking down the road. Do I have a right to that data, or do I have no rights because the person who had the camera taking the picture or the video has the rights to that? So you can get into, this is a whole field that it has a lot of moving pieces. But the interesting thing is it's growing, it's booming. As of making this video, we have just tiny data in the world, right? And data by the day is going to continue to grow. The sensors that we have to collect this data are increasing. They're becoming better, more efficient. And so you can best believe that data is not going to slow down. There's even the saying that if you look at the entire human history, right? In the last 2 years, the tiny last 2 years here, let me bring this down. The entire human history, the tiny last 2 years, is we have created more data in this tiny 2 years here than in all of history combined. And that information it keeps getting smaller and smaller. So we have the ability to create data faster, quicker, more efficiently in a very short time than what used to happen in human history. So something to pay attention to. And that's why this field of data, data analytics, data science, machine learning, AI is booming. AI relies on data. Neural networks all rely on data. Self-driving cars from Tesla all rely on data. And so there is no better time to start being data literate, to start asking questions about, your own personal data, what it means to you, how are you using it, and understanding some of the privacy regulations that are around that and the impacts to you. And for organizations, how are you using your data? Are you using it to gain efficiencies, reduce costs, get revenue and such? So just a whole lot of discussions around that going on. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. This is a very, very relevant topic at this point in time. So hopefully everyone is paying attention to this. And I did cover and bounce around a lot of topics. So hopefully we still were able to grasp that. If you have any questions around this, don't hesitate to jump into the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Hopefully we're all thinking about data as such. If you think someone will find this valuable, send this to them. All right, this is one of those things that I really want to push and call on us to share this to somebody to start thinking about data. For many of us, right, we always offshore that to, or we always outsource data talk to, the IT people. But we're getting to a point where you don't have to be an IT person, or you don't have to be a tech person to think about data, right? You could be minding your business, doing whatever it is you're doing, and Facebook is out there collecting your data, or Twitter is there collecting your data, or some company is collecting your data and doing things with it that, you might want or might not want. And so the question is, what steps are you taking to educate yourself, to have the literacy that you need to have to understand all of this as such. All right, so make sure you share this with somebody that you think might get value, or just want to get some understanding around this concept and why this is a very, very important topic to be having or to be educated about. All right, so this is Fro again. Thank you for watching. If you have a topic you want me to cover, let me know and I'll see what I can do about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.